Well, that turned out amazing. Couldn't ask for any better than that. Oh. Welcome back to Death Toll Racing. We're going to move some shipping containers today, and so to do that, we're going to have to fabricate a tongue for the front of a shipping container. So all these containers, we have 5 of them to move. We're just going to do one today. This is the most difficult of the 5, but they're all 40-foot containers. The one we're moving today is a standard height container. The rest of them will be high cube containers. So I am making a tongue that will bolt onto the front of the trailer using the factory equipped corners on the shipping container. And I have a special little attachment that will attach them to those big oval holes on those. I will show you those here in a second. I am choosing to stick weld this with 7018 just so that I can get better penetration on this. I'm a little skeptical on how well this is going to if this is going to be rigid enough for the front, just having those plates on the end. The tube itself is I think it's a 5x6 rec tube 3/8 wall, so it's a very heavy tube. The tube isn't the problem. I worry about the corners themselves. All right, so I am putting a very short tongue on this so that I can push it around with a bobcat. I'm a little, at this point, skeptical on whether this is going to be strong enough. The corners are going to be strong enough to not twist with the weight of the container on there. So at this point, I was putting a short one on. That will work with the skid steer, but unfortunately, 2 of the containers that we need to move up a hill, I don't trust the skid steer to do it because the container and the skid steers actually weigh about the same. My skid steer weighs 9,000 pounds and the containers weigh 9,000 pounds. So I don't want to try to do anything too crazy with the skid steer in the possibility that it could get overpowered by the container itself. So this is a little S10 drag truck. That's a future project for Death Toll Racing, as well as this little Honda Civic that we're going to be picking up here next. This one I want to put on an S2000 chassis. So let me know what you think about that, because I think it would be really cool. Show you what I got going on with my wheels, and then we'll get to the tongue that you just saw us build earlier. So what this thing is it's an adapter that a guy had made and he sells them online and I'll put a link to these. I believe it's the same guy still, but it uses an 8-lug spindle and has a spindle on it, and it has this that's supposed to go into the corners, and then you rotate it and then you lock it out with these bolts. It just keeps it from that keeps it pulled out so it can't rotate, because of the way those cab corners work. You have to push it all the way in, rotate it, and then pull it out, and it kind of locks in. But at the time, I didn't have anything that could lift half of a shipping container, so I had to. I see some gold under the shipping container. What the heck is that? See that shiny thing? They're like eggs of something. I don't really like going under the shipping container, but anyway, I just saw those out of the corner of my eye. So anyway, I made this, and this fits exactly in between the cross members underneath the shipping container, which are basically in the indents here. So there's a cross member here, there's a cross member here. You can see the welds on them. So this fits exactly in there. I don't think you could actually see what I was just pointing at.
What you can see that yes. Your wife brought you a locust cider.
Yeah.
Sponsored by
nobody.
I wish it was locust cider.
Most critical part, that is this guy, this D-ring. So we take, once we put the shipping container on here, just to make sure that if we were to hit a bump or something, that the wheel doesn't fall out from under, I just throw a strap over the container pulling up on these. It just keeps these lifted up to the container in case for some reason these go to airborne, maybe I bottom out or whatever. So that's kind of the plan with those. Oh. Okay, so this bracket is just 3 of these ovals. One of them has key stocks, so that it'll lock like that. And so what's going to happen... All right, guys, I didn't do a good job explaining how my little contraption here works. And all it does, essentially, is it fits through there, and then it locks in, and there's no way that that can come out as long as it's tight. And that's the whole point of those key stocks. Nothing came loose when we moved this. I gotta get it back out. Getting it out isn't as easy as getting it in.
That's what she said.
Nothing came loose while we did this, and everything stayed really nice and tight. And so there is some changes I'm going to make to our hitch, but it doesn't have anything to do with how this works. Putting it together is a little challenging. It's just the hitch is really heavy, and getting it together isn't the easiest thing in the world, but it's not terribly difficult either. It just takes a little bit of finesse. So the reason I have everything so tight, these are real tight on the bolt, is because if it's loose, if say this was just a bolt with like a washer on there, if I just had this going in on the other side, it's just point loading right at the top of the bolt, and then that's going to cause more stress on the bolt, more stress on everything, and the likelihood of it coming loose is going to be drastically increased. So by keeping everything tight with really close tolerances, it puts the load all the way across the top because it's tight. So if that hole were bigger, it would just be only hitting at the top. And since they're so close together, it hits around the whole top. So it just makes your bolt that much stronger, and it'll keep everything from coming loose. Okay, and then I'm doing a little safety check here and making sure that the tongue's not going to break off the front. It actually seems extremely rigid, surprisingly. All right, so I have my wheels at about a third of the way down the trailer, or the container. So that puts probably 3,500 pounds or so on the tongue, and that's quite a bit to be doing with skid steer. So it's probably about the max I can do with this thing. It actually worked out quite well, but moving them more towards the middle makes it a little harder to manage positioning it because its swing is kind of odd. Having the wheels all the way at the back corner would probably be ideal for, really being picky on where you're placing it, but you'd have to have something that can pick up the other half. So here's me concentrating. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm afraid that the skid steer is just going to fall on his nose. That's why I kind of look like I'm puckered a little bit.
Whoa! Yes, I shouldn't be watching ya. This is me walking. Oh, well now it's just fine. Run! Hurry up!
Done through the gate.
I think you're gonna hit dirt here. All right, the battery died, but here's what went down. we couldn't make it work with the tractor, so Gavin attached it to the Bobcat. And then with the Bobcat, he drug it all the way across the property, which was pretty impressive. Uphills, downhills, in ditches, the whole nine. We got the front end to kind of where we wanted it, so now the plan is, hey Gavin, I'm narrating for you.
Okay.
All right, so now the plan is that we put the tractor down here in case the container that is haphazardly and chaotically just set here, now at least it can't roll away. So the plan right now, we are going to take off the tires. We are going to set it on the ground and buffer it with the tractor, and then we're going to just like push it around chaotically until it goes where we want it to.
So yeah, this front end that the tractor's on needs to move over about the width of the container, so 8 feet or so. But we need to get the wheels off first so we don't break them while we're muscling it around. Plus, less likelihood of it rolling away.
Yeah, so I just want the whole damn project to be over with because this is exhausting. I don't know how Gavin does this shit all day, every day. I'm gonna just go back to work and deal with the public and sell dog food. Woo!
Yeah, I forgot my keys. Well, now you can see what the strap does. So if it were to bottom out, the wheels just fall right off. So the strap just holds them up to the container so that they're there when the weight gets back on them. So moving it around actually is tragically easy with this tractor. This thing, it's funny, when I was looking at these tractors, the rating on it isn't high at all. And I haven't found anything that the thing won't pick up or break when you're moving it around. So the thing is just an amazing tractor. But and this little skid steer is pretty good too. But it definitely has its limitations just on weight and counterweight and all that fun stuff. All right, so the container is a little crooked, so I need to level it out, and the backhoe part just picks it up pretty easy. So I just used a chain. You couldn't really see what I did, but I just wrapped a chain. There's a hook on the back side of the boom, and I just wrapped a chain around it and through the corners. All right, guys, so here is my ghetto fabulous way I'm going to do this. Mainly, I want this thing exactly where it's going to be when I pour the concrete, because I don't want to try to... One, I don't have a month to wait for the concrete to get fully hard. So I want this thing basically sitting on its own weight before we pour. So what I did is I got 1.5" all thread going into those blocks. And then I welded a washer to the top of them, and I'm going to weld the washer to the corners of the shipping container. And I know this works, and I know it lifts them because I actually had these things sitting on this at the other house where it was nice and flat. I just had those things dug into the ground, and that's how I leveled them out, and it worked really good, and it never had a problem, and it sat that way for years. But here is a different scenario. It's a lot sketchier. So I'm doing it like this. Then I'm going to weld, once I get everything all exactly positioned, I'm going to weld rebar across my studs, my all thread, and then also reinforce this. I got to dig this out a little farther because I'm going to bore a pretty big footing under it. I'll probably just pour it here for now, and then we'll pour the rest of this pad later, but I want to get like the structural stuff done first. So then I'm going to pour that basically up to the bottom. The container actually has to go down about 1 inch from where it's at. We'll pour the concrete right up to the bottom of it, but there'll be a slight gap, just enough to get my trowel under it. And then we'll trowel that all out, and that will hopefully look real good. And I think it'll be strong, especially with that rebar. If I didn't put the rebar from all thread to all thread, I'm afraid that these basically those posts the blocks would just start pushing down because they won't actually adhere to the concrete. So all the weight would then just push down. The container would basically end up just sitting on the concrete, which isn't that big of a deal. But I would like it to be supported more evenly distributed across there. And that's where all that rebar and stuff is going to come into play. And I think it's going to work, but maybe it won't. I don't know. This end is the easy end. I'll show you the other end. Okay, so this is the sketchy end. So on this end, we have a 6-inch square tube, which is what this is, and that's going to continue down. Then there's going to be a cross piece and then another one down there. Then we're going to weld rebar and everything to our legs in there, fill this up to concrete, probably just to here, and then we'll end up backfilling it up. It's going to be about to here, so there'll be a couple feet of 6-inch square tubes sticking out. All right, so I got some rems of 6-inch square tubes, so I'm taking just enough for what I need off each one, and then the other ones are going to be our gate posts, so we're going to make a wrought iron gate later. I'm not exactly sure where they're even going to go yet, or if I'm going to have multiple gates or whatever, but either way, we have posts now, and now I got to figure out where they're going to go so that I don't just have them sitting around. What I'm doing here is I'm just cutting a piece of sheet metal so that I can weld it on the top so that the posts don't fill with water. So because the cab corners, or the corners on the shipping container, are they have the big oval holes in them, so water technically would end up filling that post full of water, and I don't want that, and then it'll freeze and expand and blow the pipe out, or the tube out. So now I'm just holding it up with just enough tension so that it'll hold it there and get it all level, and then I welded it on, which I did not film. I thought I did, but apparently I didn't. And now I'm using our mudmixer, which is the handiest tool in the history of the world. It makes mixing concrete so easy. It does the mixing for you, so you just pour the dry bag in. It has an auger, and it just poops it out nice and mixed. You can adjust how wet or dry the mix is via a little valve on it. There's a full review on our other channel of this mud mixer, assembling and our review and learning how to do concrete with it. On our other channel, it's called The Browns Build Stuff, so check that out. I was actually hesitant on which channel to put this on, whether it be on the Death Toll channel or on the Browns Build Stuff channel. I decided this one. But we'll see. So anyway, so this is just formed up for our pad for making it just so we're walking in and out of it on concrete. I just dropped rebar in after the fact instead of trying to suspend it and everything else in there. I am not a concrete expert by any stretch of the imagination, but believe it or not, it actually usually turns out pretty good. So. Well, that turned out amazing. Couldn't ask for any better than that. Oh. It's all right, we can fix it. Okay, so I have to grind grooves in my new concrete. It doesn't actually grind yet because it's only about 12 hours old. So I just kind of carved out a trough, and then once the concrete dries fully, I will go back and grind it so it's a smoother trough. But that was kind of annoying. We actually test swung the door before we poured that, and I'm not really sure where we went wrong there. But I think it's what hits is just the latch on the door, and I thought about rebuilding the latch and doing a different style latch, but it just wasn't worth it. I'll just grind a groove. It's not the end of the world. All right, so that's going to do it for this one. So there it is, kind of complete. I still have the jacks holding up weight. I don't want to put any weight on this concrete for as long as possible. And let it dry. It's not full strength for, I think it says 28 days or something. I think it's going to be a little faster here because the ground's so dry right now. But the longer I can leave those jacks there, the better. There's rebar and all that stuff. I don't know if you could see it. I think my camera was kind of low. But I welded a bunch of rebar around that post so that it won't just try to push through the concrete. So we will see once that happens. I have no fear in it sinking, but I just wanted to let the concrete set up for as long as possible. So this isn't done. We're going to address this again next year probably. This is going to get siding. It's going to get siding, it's going to get a roof, it's going to get all that stuff, so it won't look like a shipping container anymore. But that's all coming up in the future. because I'm not gonna have time to do that this year, because I want to try to get all these containers moved before the weather doesn't cooperate anymore. But here's the inside. The inside turned out pretty cool, so I'm calling it my library. I am going to put lights down the middle. The lights right now are on the side, which doesn't, it worked before, but it doesn't work with the way the shelves are in here. I used to have shelves just on this one side, so it was pointing down them, and it worked really well, but that was kind of like the walkway. But I don't obviously have it that way anymore. So interiors, and then the rest of this is all car parts for projects for Death Toll Racing that are all upcoming. Oh, fun stuff. So the shop is a complete disaster. I couldn't do anything in here if I wanted to. So this used to have all shelving with those bins. It worked, and it was okay looking, but I want to clean it up so it just to finish this look. So that's how this is going to be down here. Akila's going to come do some hemming on our flag. So I got these cabinets moved in here. Those I just had kind of stuffed in the corner. And then there's going to be a big belt sander here. I'm going to try to finish off my material processing. Basically is going to be this area. So the saw is there. That's all mounted. And then I got my rollers and all that stuff. And then the material will come straight off of our rack, right on in and down. So it's just going to streamline our builds a little faster, since I do everything by myself right now. I need everything. Anytime you have to spend more than a minute or two, it starts adding up really bad, and it makes it just a total hassle to try to do some builds. So I want to start getting into some of the builds that we have coming up are going to be very involved, a ton of fab and a ton of stuff like that. So I really want to get everything streamlined, have everything all set up so that I can just wham bam knock everything out. The lathe is going to be, the gunsmithing lathe is going to be back in there, so that'll be kind of like a cleaner room with tire machine and all that stuff. But I'm only going to be doing new tires and stuff on that. It's not for letting people come over and destroy it with their Sears Roebuck tires anymore. That's unfortunately a tire machine. You think a flatbed trailer is bad, get yourself a tire machine, and you'll be amazed all the friends that come out of the woodwork needing to use that thing.